Hey, this is Vishal here, and I welcome you to the Safal Niveshak podcast, where I cover ideas in stock market investing, wealth creation, behavioral finance, and lifelong learning. One of the key topics that I cover during my value investing workshops and courses is that of valuations. That is, the importance of valuations and the process of valuing stocks. But before I start this specific section, I warn people about two bitter truths of valuations and how they can avoid them. I first learned these truths during my reading of Ashwath Damodaran, who is the professor of finance at the Stern School of Business at New York University, where he teaches corporate finance and equity valuation. Now, Mr. Damodaran is widely quoted on the subject of valuation and a great reputation as a teacher and authority. In other words, Damodaran is to business valuations what Peter Drucker was to business strategy. Couple of years back, I read this book titled The Little Book of Valuation, written by Damodaran, where in the first chapter he reiterates an important fact about value. He says that it's more than a number and that understanding it well is a way to stay ahead of the pack. Now, over the years, I have met a lot of investors who have been good students of businesses, but when it came to valuations, they argued that value lies in the eyes of the beholder, and that any price can be justified if there are other investors who perceive an investment to be worth that amount. Now, this is obviously absurd, but then this is the way valuations are treated, with the aim of looking for a bigger fool who will pay a higher value in the future. Very surprisingly, not just unqualified investors. This is also the way the smart and qualified analysts set targets on the stocks they recommend, that they will be able to find people who will get fooled by the glamorous returns the recommended stock promises by way of its target price. Anyways, the idea of this session is not to discuss the authenticity of stock market analysts and their valuation skills. Instead, my core idea of talking to you today is to share with you what Damodaran writes in his book on some bitter truths about valuations. Now, the reason I call these as bitter truths is because these are something that we as investors rarely realize in our busyness of calculating a stock's intrinsic value. More importantly, knowing these truths can keep us grounded and not get obsessed about the numbers that our valuation models throw up. Anyways, let me now tell you about these two bitter truths of valuations. The first truth that Damodaran talks about in his book is that all valuations are biased. Yes, that's right. All valuations are biased. However hard we try to remove biases, those leaks in our brains, we are prone to fall in love with our ideas. Now, a leading theory of romantic love is that it functions to make one feel committed to one's beloved, as well as to signal this commitment to the beloved. Stock analysis is no different. We first like an idea, which is a business, and only then we study deeper. Then, once we start to like what we study of the business, the likeness turns to our love for the stock. And before we could know it, we are committed to it. Now, this commitment creates a bias when we are working on estimating the stock's intrinsic value. How could the intrinsic value be so low as compared to the current price? I would tend to ask myself on finding that a company I have started loving is selling expensive in the stock market. And my next reaction is, let me raise the free cash flow growth a bit and then see, instead of 8%, if I assume a growth of 12%, then the intrinsic value is almost around the current stock price. And then my next reaction is, if this company has grown its free cash flow at 15% over the past 10 years, a 12% growth over the next 10 years is not impossible, so let me keep it at 12%. Just notice the love getting deeper and deeper. You see, the inputs that we use in the valuation will reflect our optimistic or pessimistic bent. Thus, we are more likely to use higher growth rates and see less risk in companies that we are predisposed to like. There you are. In taking care of all the other biases in the world, that is confirmation, anchoring, herding, we witness, we forget to remove the I love this company bias, and this shows in our valuations for the stock. Now the question is, how can you remove this bias, if at all? Damodaran suggests putting all your thoughts on the company on paper, even before you start calculating its intrinsic value. In addition, he suggests you to confine your background research on the company to information sources, that is, company's financial statements, rather than opinion sources, that is, research reports about the company. Now, as a general rule, the more bias there is in the process, the less weight you should attach to the valuation judgment. Coming about the second bitter truth of valuations, it is that most valuations are wrong. Again, you heard it right. Most valuations are wrong. Now, this can be shocking to you if you spend a lot of time arriving at that magical number, which is called the intrinsic value, that helps you ascertain whether you must buy a stock or not. Damodaran talks about 3 kinds of errors that cause most valuations, even the one meticulously calculated, to go wrong. The first error he talks about is estimation error, which occurs while converting raw information into forecasts. The second error is firm-specific uncertainty, as the firms may do much better or worse than you expected it to perform, resulting in earnings and cash flows to be quite different from your estimates. The third error he talks about is macro uncertainty, which can be a result of drastic shifts in the macroeconomic conditions that can also impact your company. This is exactly what we are seeing as of now. Now, the year 2008 is one classic example where most valuations, even the best ones, went horribly wrong owing to the last 2 factors, that is the firm-specific and macro uncertainties. While precision is a good measure of process in mathematics or physics, it is a poor measure of quality in valuation. Now, knowing that your valuation could be wrong, and in most cases it would be, despite any kind of precision you employ in your calculations, it should not lead you to a refusal to value a business at all. This makes no sense, since everyone else looking at the business faces the same uncertainty. Instead, what you must do to increase the probability of getting your valuations reasonably and not perfectly right is that 1. You must stay within your circle of competence and study businesses you understand. Just simply exclude everything that you cannot understand in 30 minutes. 2. Write down your initial view on the business, what you like, not like about it, even before you start your analysis. And this should help you in dealing with the "I love this company" bias. Number 3, run your analysis through your investment checklist. A checklist saves life during surgery and in investing. Number 4, avoid analysis paralysis. If you're looking for a lot of reasons to support your argument for the company, you are anyway suffering from the bias that I've talked about. Number 5, estimate intrinsic value using simple models and avoid using too many input variables. In fact, use the simplest model that you can while valuing a stock. If you can value a stock with just 3 inputs, please don't use 5. And remember, less is more. Number 6, use the most important concept in value investing, which is margin of safety. Without this, any valuation calculation you perform will be useless. Now, will you be wrong sometimes even when you take the maximum care while valuing stocks? Of course you will be, but so will everyone else. Success in investing comes not from being right, but from being wrong less often than everyone else. So please don't justify the purchase of a company just because it fits your valuation. Don't fool yourself into believing that every cheap stock will yield good returns. A bad company is a bad investment no matter what price it is. I love how Charlie Munger explains that. He says, a piece of turd in a bowl of raisins is still a piece of turd. And he also says, there is no greater fool than yourself, and you are the easiest person to fool. So, get going on valuing stocks. But when you find that the business is bad, exercise your options. No, not a call or a put option, but a no option. Thank you and have a nice day.